Hey guys, my name's Zenyatta, and today I'm going to be making another Mercy guide. So this video is going to be one damage boost tip for playing with every hero. So before I actually begin the video, I'm going to explain a little bit about what damage boost is and what it does, and then I'm going to go give you some general advice on how to improve your damage boost usage. So to start off, damage boost is one of Mercy's two beam types. All it does is it amplifies your target's damage by 30%. Now, one thing I do want to get across though that's pretty important is the fact that damage boost helps your allies get their ultimates faster. This is because allies are doing more damage and in turn are getting more ult charge because of it. So keep this in mind when damage boosting often, as good damage boost target priority can really help your team's ultimate economy. So now that that's out of the way, let's get on to some of the general advice that I want to give you about damage boost. So firstly, this one's pretty obvious, but try to use damage boost on full HP targets or anti-native targets since they can't be healed. There's really no point in holding heal beam on someone who can't benefit from it, so at the very least incorporate this into your playstyle. And secondly, I encourage you to try and exclusively damage boost on Valkyrie. A team-wide damage boost is really strong and a lot more impactful than the team-wide heal that Valkyrie provides. Now, I'm not saying that you can't heal in Valk, but try to push damage boosts aggressively and as often as possible. In my opinion, a Valk feels pretty wasteful if you're only healing for one person that's like half HP. It's okay to damage boost even if allies aren't full HP, especially in Valkyrie. This also allows you to get ult charge from healing after Valkyrie, which is pretty good. Alright, so now that the introduction is out of the way, let's get into the actual tips. So I'm going to start off with the tanks and begin with D.Va. D.Va's actually a pretty decent damage boost target, but not one that you're typically going to be prioritizing too much. I will say though, try to give her as much attention as you possibly can when she's demeched. This is because you can help her get her mech back faster. You don't have to hard pocket her here, but giving her as much assistance as you can is really appreciated. It's really frustrating on D.Va's part when she's just not able to get her mech back. So an important interaction between Orisa and Mercy is the fact that damage boost and supercharger stack. This means that you get 30% damage amplified from Mercy's damage boost and 50% damage amplified from Orisa's supercharger. This means that you can get an 80% damage amplified overall. So with this knowledge, try to damage boost as much as you possibly can while Supercharger is active. This also makes Valkyrie and Supercharger a pretty strong combo. The trickiest part about damage boosting Reinhardt is trying to track his fire strike, so I'm going to give you some general advice on how to track them. The best time to damage boost Rein is when he's going to peek a corner as he moves into a choke. Most Reinhardt players will go for a fire strike as they do this. In addition to this, fire strike has a cooldown of 6 seconds, so you can try to mentally track his cooldown. There's really not much to say about Roadhog, just try to always damage boost his hook to help ensure he hits the one shot. An important thing to note about Sigma is that damage boosting Sigma's ult only boosts the initial lift up, it does not damage boost his slam. Now you can damage boost Sigma throughout the entire ult, as most of the time he'll be attacking throughout it. However, in most situations it's better to damage boost someone else who can more reliably follow up. So this means I like to boost the start of Sigma's ult until he lifts the enemy, then swap to someone else who has better follow up. Playing with Hammond can be pretty difficult since he tends to just roll away from you. Whenever you can though, try to boost Pile Driver if you see him going for it. In addition to this, if he rolls past you, quickly attach your beam to him. Your beam will stay attached even a little bit after he's out of your normal range, which can help you damage boost any damage he does while rolling through people. This is really good for helping him build his ult. Winston is a pretty good damage boost target, especially when his weapon is hitting multiple people. One of the best times to damage boost him is when he leaps. Unlike normal weapons in which the damage amplified effect takes place at the time your ally shoots, abilities like leap will get damage boosted as long as you're boosting them when they land. Damage boosting his jump damage is a great way to help Winston burst down enemy squishies. Zarya overall is just an amazing damage boost target, especially when she's full charged. She does really good damage and grab is a really good ult, so just pocket her whenever you can, to be honest. So now, onto the DPS heroes. Ashe is pretty self-explanatory, she's a great damage boost target. Only advice I can really say is to track her dynamite. If you can't pocket her for some reason, at the very least boost that. In addition, don't forget about Bob, he's a great damage boost target as well. There's not really a lot to say about Bastion, he's pretty self-explanatory. The Doomfist tip is similar to Winston's, since you can damage boost him as he's using an ability or as he's charging it up. Doomfist can be pretty difficult to pocket, so if you see him going for a seismic slam or charging him a punch, damage boosting him then is usually the best way to assist him. Echo is a really good damage boost target and is fairly easy to pocket. If you can, always try to hard pocket her when she uses her ultimate in order to help her get a copied ult, especially when she copies heroes like Zarya or Sigma who have really good ults but they're hard to initially get. So the hardest part about pocketing Blade is keeping up with the Genji, so I'm going to give you some tips on how to do this. The best advice I'd give here is to get a bird's eye view while pocketing. If your Genji dashes up fly to where he was, once you're in the sky you get a better point of view and you can use Guardian Angel accordingly. If your Genji doesn't dash up, super jumping can have a similar effect. Of course, don't be afraid to combo Valkyrie and Blade, especially if your Genji doesn't have a nano boost for some reason. This combo makes pocketing him a lot easier and way safer for you as a Mercy. There's not a lot to say about Hanzo in my opinion, just track and damage boost storm arrows whenever you see them active. The best thing about playing with a Junkrat, other than boosting his mine combos of course, is that he's a great hero that you can juggle damage boost with. Because he's a relatively slow projectile, if he's spamming a choke or something, you can boost him, then leave and boost someone else and continue to repeat this process. As I mentioned before, damage boost takes effect when the weapon is fired. Overall, McCree is a very good and consistent damage boost target. Even if you have to heal him while he's in a fight, always flick your damage boost when he hits a flashbang, and don't forget to boost his Deadeye. Damage boosting Mei as she's freezing someone doesn't freeze them faster, so I like to damage boost someone else when she's freezing someone, then swap to her when she hits the headshot. I personally like to juggle heals and boost on Pharah. If you're good at timing it, try to boost your shots and heal in between. Boosting Barrage is also great of course, just try to do your best to not let her die. Reaper is a pretty underrated damage boost target in my opinion, and this is because of his passive. Reaper's passive allows him to gain HP based on how much damage he does, so pushing damage boost aggressively with him actually makes this passive stronger, since more damage done means he gets more HP from it. Don't be afraid to push damage boost heavily on Reaper, especially when he uses his ultimate. Soldier is a great and consistent damage boost target. Damage boosting him also helps make up for his lack of burst damage outside of Helix Rocket. And of course, always try to hard pocket Tactical Visor whenever you can. Sombra can be pretty hard to damage boost since she usually is in the enemy backline or invisible. The best time to boost Sombra is actually right after she EMPs, since she's usually in the middle of the enemy team when she positions for one. Because of this, she's usually the best hero to initially follow up on her own ultimate. Also, she's usually in a pretty risky spot, especially if she threw her translocator, so helping her get out is always appreciated. I personally like to play with Symmetra as if she's a ground ferret. Something that's pretty cool that you can do is damage boost her TP flanks without actually following her, since your beam will stay attached for a little bit after she TPs. The best time to damage boost Torbjorn is during his overload ability. The increased armor, speed, and fire rate allow him to play super aggressive, and it almost always results in a kill. Tracer's actually a pretty good damage boost target, especially since damage boosting her helps her one clip a lot easier. The issue with Tracer though is that she's really hard to follow and can be pretty hard to pocket, so don't go out of your way to pocket her since usually you'll just end up getting left behind when she recalls or something. I typically only damage boost her when she's playing close to me, but when she is there, I try to give her as much attention as I possibly can. Other than that, I typically only damage boost her when I'm using Valkyrie. Widowmaker is pretty self-explanatory. She plays very similarly to Ashe. She's overall a good hero to damage boost. It is important to note though that damage boosting her makes it so that she doesn't have to charge her shots for as long. So because of this, I always like to attach my beam to a Widow as she goes for a grapple shot. Other than that, just pocketing her in general can be pretty good, as it allows her to pop off a lot easier. So finally, we're on to the supports, and I'm going to begin with Ana. Ana is a pretty situational damage boost target. I mean, if you're damage boosting Ana, your team has 0 heals, since you're damage boosting and Ana would be DPSing in that situation. Damage boost does not affect healing in any way, by the way, so don't try damage boosting her thinking she's going to heal more. Damage boosting nano boost targets is always a great option, of course, as I mentioned in the Erisitive. Damage boost and other forms of damage amplification stack. The only time I would ever really damage boost an Ana is if she sleeps someone. This is because you can damage boost the nade combo and then follow up with your pistol if there's no one else to follow up for her. Baptiste is actually a pretty good damage boost target, but usually not one of your priorities. I only really damage boost him if he has a good angle. It's also a good idea to damage boost him while he's in his immortality field, since obviously he can't be killed. This also might help him scare away any enemies he was 1v1ing. He can usually heal himself with his regenerative burst, so you don't have to worry about it too much. And of course, as I've mentioned previously, damage boost stacks, so make sure you're damage boosting often when Amplification Matrix is active. In my opinion, Brigitte just isn't really a good damage boost target. She's never really a priority, and there's almost always someone better to damage boost. She can be fun to pocket during rally, but that's really it. Other than that, I really only look to damage boost her when she goes for a shield bash combo. If you have a Lucio on your team, just go Ana, swap off Mercy, because playing Mercy with a Lucio absolutely sucks. In all seriousness, Lucio really isn't a very good damage boost target, and he tends to spend most of his time in the enemy backline, so you're not going to be able to damage boost him anyway. I typically will only damage boost him if I want him to get his ult faster, or if he's close to it. Moira is an alright damage boost target. She doesn't need to aim, so I typically like to damage boost her when enemies are stalling points. Coalescence is a great ult to damage boost since it has a fairly long range and it pierces shields. You also don't have to worry about being too aggressive since she can heal her team while ulting as well. I also would like to mention that damage boosting orb doesn't increase the amount of damage it does, it only increases its DPS. This is because damage orb does a set amount of damage, so because of this, damage boost actually makes the orb drain faster. This is still useful though, so look to damage boost orbs as often as possible. Zenyatta is a great damage boost target because of his high damage and Discord orb. One of the best times to damage boost Zenyatta is actually when you're peeling for him. This is because dealing damage is Zenyatta's main form of defense, so why not make that defense even stronger by playing even more aggressive? Alright, so that's every hero done. This is my first time making a guide like this, so let me know what you think and if you like this style as opposed to my other style of guides. If you have any questions about any of the tips or just in general, feel free to ask them in the comments. If you're new to my channel, or if this is your first time watching one of my videos, welcome to the channel. I usually make montages, guides, and educational highlight videos revolving around mostly Mercy gameplay, but I do make videos on other heroes occasionally as well. Well, I think that's everything, and that's it from me for now. Hope you enjoyed the video, and thanks for watching.